probably feel comfortable and they'll open up about a lot. So I think we should just continue the conversation. You know, don't stop it and say, well, we're going to do it another time or whatever, and stick to, be too rigid, you know, with the
I agree.
interviews and the questions.
I agree.
Once they start talking, just let them talk.
Because when we let them start talking, that's going to lead to other things. They may circle back around to what, you know.
Right,
so,
exactly.
So I think, you know.
Or may answer some questions that we had later on. You know, you're not going 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I can't talk about that now.
Yeah,
that's not question number 10.
I'm on 4. That's 10.
You know,
yeah.
Well,
great point.
I think it's a very good question. I'm hearing people's points too, because on our paper we're going to, and people have the right not to answer a question. So if we make that, because I think that's going to be known up front too, so that you don't have to talk about, if you don't want to answer the question, you could say pass. So that may be, but to your point, I think people will start talking, and people will tell stories that they didn't even intend to tell. You know, so we might be passing up on really hearing some other stories. That could still be part of the puzzle, or a picture that we have, or something.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So you made me think of something. So to this point, so if somebody's talking, we're not taking any. We're not doing any writing. We're not taking any notes or anything. It's
distracting.
Yeah.
I mean, last week it was purposeful.
But this is all being photographed.
Right.
I mean, it's on the video. Recorded.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Let me see. Where am I going? Where am I going with this?
I like to take notes because it reminds me of follow-up questions.
That's where I'm going. Like, so if somebody gets off track and they don't, I don't know.
You mean how to get them back?
And they don't elaborate. They don't elaborate, but I don't know, and you want to know more, and they keep talking, and that's something you want them to come back to. And I'm going to make a note of that. And then, I don't know, maybe when the interview is like, now you mentioned, Larry, you mentioned something earlier.
Right.
And you said X, Y, Z. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I got you. I know what you're talking about.
So that may be an important disclosure at the beginning, saying I just want you to know that I've got a notepad here for me to keep track of things that you may say that we can go back to. I just want you to know what I'm writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that happens to all of us. You're like, do you mind if I take notes?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's just a thought that just hit me.
No, but it's good because this is what. And people can also choose not to take notes.
Yes, and you don't have to take notes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But to your point, because with the interview last week, because who came away curious more about Larry?
I did. I did. So Larry, you don't know that we're going to do this again today. No.
No, because it was no. But I wrote the phrases because last week when you said, for instance, and it might have crossed people's mind, like when you first went to the integrated school, like you were in culture shock because you saw these white people. And I wanted to ask.
We wanted to know more.
Like, what did that? I want to know what it felt like. Like, because I don't have that, and not that I would share this when I'm interviewing somebody else, but I have no idea. What was that like for you?
Fear. It was fear.
And we were pressed for time. We were, and Deb did a good job. We were like, when you left, we're like, man.
I have these questions here. And what was your childhood home like, or something like that? But it was just so, and I know we'll know more.
We'll get more.
Absolutely.
But it's just, it's again about just hearing that. Like, I feel something when you say that you felt afraid.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And how did...
It was out of my
How did they treat you? What was the first person that, said something that was disturbing to you? And what did you say?
Well, see, our parents told us not to go to the bathroom or any place by ourselves. Always had somebody with you. It's that. Never go to if you have to go to the restroom, don't go in there by yourself.
So many rules.
Yeah.
So many things.
So they were trying to protect us. Make sure we didn't get in trouble.
No safety.
Yes.
Yeah.
How scary was it for your parents? Deb, you want to?
I was gonna say, I had a lot. I could have gone deeper.
Right.
We did that.
You were the client.
Yeah, but can I backtrack to the
Absolutely.
question piece of it? Because some people have said that we shouldn't have any questions.
Right.
And that kept going through my head when who's trying to write the questions.
Mhm.
But I don't see how to do that without
I don't
having.
You gotta have
Well,
some
you have to
structure.
have-
You gotta have
yeah.
some
Right.
structure to
And,
the.
and we're
Right.
pointed, like you have
Yeah.
pointed out too,
Okay.
Deb, that we
That's
want to get
Gary's
to this
philosophy.
question. What was it like to be Benel on the other
You gotta
side
have some
of that
structure.
creek
Right.
bridge?
Right.
You know?
Because
Yeah.
even the way we formulate the questions can make somebody feel more comfortable.
Yes, like
You know,
we're in the know. It's okay
right
to talk
away.
about this.
And, you know, so that's if we, when we work on the questions or in sort of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question, and maybe I don't remember from last week, but how long should our interviews be? Because that's also very important.
Well, I think we've been talking about due to people's ages and stuff, and our own ages.
We're just going to let them talk?
But like a,
Just let them talk.
Yeah, let them talk.
Yeah.
right, but I think we're back to Jackie's point too about noticing how people are doing. You know what I mean? If you see them running out of gas, or if they're more energized. But I mean, for me, I'm thinking an hour, hour and a half most. But I know Ed has done like.
But that was, I mean, I've done 13 hours of interviews with one person, but that was over the course of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
four or five visits, you know, and
Yeah.
and she wore me out. You know, it wasn't, she's 93 years old, and I'm
Like
like,
a little bunny.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so.
gonna happen as well.
I
Yeah,
understand.
but again, these are one of the things that we'll see what the averages are going to be.
Okay.
But
So-
some people will talk more than others.
Yeah.
You
Yes,
know, Some
absolutely.
people you're gonna have to really drag
Yeah.
out
Yes.
information.
Yes.
But others will just
Yeah.
keep going.
Yes.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
we'll have
Yeah,
to
it's going to be the
cut it
range.
at some point.
Yes.
Right.
And we
Yes,
may
yes.
want to come back. You know,
Yes.
we may get to a point where you say, well, you know, we want to talk with you again. If that's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
We cover everything
That's
Yeah.
or
excellent
something.
point.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
this is going to be part of this is going to be definitely spontaneous because we may not have predicted that person. Wow, we found some more gold here. You know, so that decision, like, yeah, we're gonna maybe
Right.
go on for 10 more minutes, and we're gonna schedule another appointment if that's okay, another interview. Yeah.
So I'm tired. You
Yeah,
it's hard
no,
to-
because we have to. I know, because this is it's a lot.
It's exhausting.
so from an observant counselor standpoint, this goes back a little bit to this meeting. Can you, or people that are really have a long history of interviewing, what would be some signs or signals to be aware of and to consider as you're watching this person that you're building a relationship with and talking to say, you know, maybe we should just stop the camera for a minute or two and just take a break and you know, shake it off, walk around, walk it off. You know, if you see that they're starting to get apprehensive or you know, or stressed,
signs
you
of
know, you
fatigue.
see signs
But
of
then-
fatigue. Let's say, hey, let's go ahead and take a break, get a drink of water, and you know, but that way they don't feel the pressure of knowing
Right.
that they're on camera. You know,
Right.
I mean that adds to it. You
Right.
know, so
Yeah.
I think being again, we have to be real observant of not only trying to get our questions answered, but also being aware of who we're interviewing and their body language. So I think we'll have to check in with, are you okay? Is it okay
Yeah.
for me to go on? Or do you need, I think we're going to be doing a lot of that. And they'll say, no, I'm good, or, well, we're going to have to be asking them
Yeah.
in some instances when it's not apparent.
Right. I think at every juncture, when they're filling out the paperwork and when we meet with them, because it is to say, you know, after some introductions and stuff like that, I'm just here to remind you that at any point you want to stop, just give me a signal or say, I just need to stop. You know, so we'll turn it off, and then it's checking in with people. How's this going for you? You know, or do you need water? Do you need, like Ed said, to walk around? Do you need to go to the bathroom? And then the other thing is that sometimes someone might spontaneously start crying, right? Did that ever happen to you, Myra, when you were out in the community interviewing people? You know, so I'm not saying it's going to be, it will happen, but again, we're talking about painful topics, right? Or just even, you know, even besides, I'll just say it, racism, people had early deaths, and because even like with that interview, that woman's father died. She's 93 years old. At the end of the interview, she comes back to her father dying, and that was the most painful moment of her life. you know, and I think she was having some feelings. You know, it doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter how long something happened ago. So it's either if they get teary-eyed, and again, we could check in like, do you need a minute? Or just, and sometimes it just may be coming. Are people okay with people crying in front of them? You know, like for the most part.
We're educators. I mean, my students cry all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, children, grandchildren, life experiences, because it can come up when you know, we've all had grief and loss that becomes spontaneously and unpredictable time. So it's just, I'm really okay with if someone needs a break and they start crying, we're just going to sit there and listen. And we're not going to run over and hand them tissues or give them a hug, and not that I'm opposed to any of those things, but it's just sometimes people know, like, and that's one thing I'm just going to suggest, that when people are triggered or something, it may seem like compassionate to first give them a hug, but people may not want to be touched.
That is such a great point.
Yeah, like, so please,
That's
it's
such
just,
a great point.
you know, so just see if they ask for a hug and you're comfortable with that, then that can happen. But don't even, I'm really suggesting, don't even suggest it, because that makes another weird thing, like this person wants to hug me, you know what I mean, and they may not want to be, and
That's a
you know,
great point.
for multiple reasons. So, and
I
it's,
don't think we do any hugging, in my opinion.
yeah, no. But if when someone asks me, and it depends, but whatever. But we can have more conversations about that, you know.
And I think we're gonna, as time goes on and we start having more interviews under our belt and more experience, they're going to be, you know, I think, you know, because people are starting to volunteer to do the interviews.
Yes.
We're getting people very interested. I think also we need to think also as we go through the process, some of our viewers may decide this is not for them. Am I right, Myra?
I think so.
Okay.
And so I don't. That's gonna come out, which is okay.
It absolutely is.
It's okay. So that was just a side note.
No, it's a good side
And you know,
note.
we may have to switch up teams because
Yes.
some people may, and I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Please.
Some people will look at the two of you and say, well, you know, I don't like the way she looks. You know, I don't know if I want to talk to this white woman right here.
That's what
Something,
you
you know, and then
It's already happened.
You know,
so.
yeah, exactly. And they're formulating opinions in their minds about
Or fear.
Or yes, right, yeah. Do I really want to say this in front of her?
Right.
So
Yes.
you know,
Right.
we may have to have some way of getting out of that interview and saying, you know, we can schedule with another team or something,
Absolutely.
or talk with someone else.
Yeah.
You know.
See,
but I
that's
think
not-
that's why it's going to be important for us to have a black and a white. Team,
Yes, absolutely.
You know, within the interview process.
I think we're going to run into that more times than not. I really do.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
We're going to run into that more times than not.
Mhm.
So
'Cause
we
people
really
are
need to
just
talk about.
stressful.
I think that's a
That's
critical
part of the
piece.
interviewing. Absolutely.
What do we really do with that? I don't know. We don't have to decide. You made a great point, you know, but I think we need to have a way of getting out of that.
But it's pivoting.
But if that's an interview we really want to continue to explore, how do we get ourselves back into that? You know, pulling away and going back. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
Well,
Yeah.
just deal with it right there right there. Decide would you feel more comfortable with somebody
A black
else
woman.
black
Okay.
woman
Yes.
interview?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, because I think because we can pick up on a vibe, even you know, and just to ask people, are you comfortable? Because with two of us being there, you know, like I just need a minute with Jackie. You know what I mean? Whatever. So I would say that. I'm saying the interviewee would say that, and then just pivoting and really not having hurt feelings of disappointment or whatever, because. You know, like for me, I prefer women doctors. You know what I mean? So we you know, and
Right,
one time
same
I went to
thing.
an office and I didn't like the vibe with this person. She wasn't the person I was expecting, and I said, "So I can't work with this woman." I just said it. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna respect that because I've said it myself for different reasons.
And some people may not say it verbally.
Right.
You
Yes.
just get that.
That's
Yes.
that body language.
The body
And you
language.
gotta be able
Yes.
to pick up on it.
Yes.
Exactly. So what?
Exactly.
Maybe.
That's true. Maybe.
Maybe not.
No, but
Okay.
but what would you, Myra, and other people? Is that saying enough? I'm sensing that you're not comfortable. Is there something you'd like to say, or is there what's happening for you? Do you want to talk to me?
I'm thinking.
So would it be worthwhile at the front end,
Okay.
maybe even at the time of them, you know, seeing list of questions or the sign-up sheet, would you prefer a male, a female, as far as interviewers go, male, female, white, black? This way you've kind of got. You're not waiting for the equipment to be set up and for them to be sitting in front of you for them to decide. I really don't think I want to be asked questions by these people that are here. So if you kind of have a heads up on the front end,
Yes.
you know that this person really prefers a black woman, or it doesn't matter. You have a little box that says it doesn't matter. Whoever wants to talk to
That's
me.
not on our form now.
That doesn't matter? I don't believe.
No, it doesn't matter. Just don't we? What's our form?
Or no preference. No,
no preference.
We
Yeah.
got to have a little script to start out with, so to make sure
We
that
have-
we cover all of these
We
things.
have documentation. We try to be very transparent. So we have a sheet that explains what we're doing and what our goals are. And our goals are to get stories to talk about past racial experiences with the goal of connection. And we have just a little brief sign-up sheet, your name, where you were born, that kind of thing. But I don't think there's anything in there about their preference on an interviewer.
No.
And
Because we haven't gotten there yet.
Well,
I mean, this is.
I think
there's
we've
been-
talked about
We've
it.
talked about it.
Yeah.
And we've always thought that it would be fluid, and we would read the room.
Right.
And my other point is, okay, black and white, and we made it pretty clear at that last meeting that that's this way, and that's how we want to handle it. And I'm absolutely positively fine with that. But if we go into interview a black male, and we get the vibes that yes, you should be asking the questions. But my presence in the room still impacts his responses.
That's true.
It
But
sure
to-
could.
Can
Yeah,
I just
it could.
play a little devil's advocate, if that's the right
That's a
word?
great point.
Because I know reading the vibe and stuff like that, or people may be making their preferences known somehow. And I'm not sure if I'm even going to express this right, but because we've talked a lot about being seen together, black and white people together, and that's also, like, trust is transferred. Like, hey, Myra trusts this white woman, then okay,
Good point.
But is it also, just take with the Bunnell ladies. White and black women have been going to Bunnell 4 or 5 times, I've lost count. And relationships are there a little bit, like they know us, but that doesn't mean that they still may not. I'm not assuming that means I'm cool and we're good, I know that, but I'm just wondering, because I think it's also about, part of this too, I'm just going to say, is about healing the racial divide. So do we give people that may be willing, hey, I'm going to give this white person a try, but if we ask the question, black or white, maybe, I don't know.
You don't think we should do that?
No, I'm not saying we should or should, I'm just trying to formulate that, because in reverse, like if all white people pick white people,
I don't think we might be putting something in their mind if we go and say
Yes.
it.
yeah,
You know,
but so we're not gonna make any major decision today, and I'm not, because I will be so open and I will pivot, like, I get that. If someone's preference, they don't have to explain anything more. But it's just, we're complicating and gumming things up at the beginning by just having that question, and then we're going to just get the segregation at the get-go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't
I
either.
want people to be comfortable.
right,
with
just
that.
start over with it. You can kind of feel it if the interview
That's
going
all
well
right.
with
You
you.
right. You will feel it.
You can feel it. You can see what's going
I'll
on.
go with,
Do you know that expression gaydar, that some people have that they know
So you're
someone's
asking
gay?
for, I think you're asking for problems
But
if you ask
maybe
that
we'll
question.
be able to know, like, this person doesn't want to work with me. I don't know. But it's like the radar to be up about that.
And Rick, you want to share your thoughts?
I said, I think you're asking for problems by asking that question.
Okay.
question.
You're more, you want to be a blank slate when you're interviewing somebody. You want to be a blank slate. You don't want to be, I come with preconceived notions.
Okay.
And if you ask that question, you're saying that the interviewer might have a preconceived notion.
Right.
So I would think be open to hearing that concern on the part of the person you're talking to, but don't put the concern in their mind.
Yeah. That's right.
That's a good point.
Was that, you were saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so just more
Took
food
care
for
of that,
thought,
yeah.
and no, and Rick,
have
do you
to
believe
kinda
like
read
if someone
those
says
Yeah.
I would
body
prefer to
languages
speak
or
with
whatever.
Jackie than Mary, I think
That's
maybe
their preference. They have a
fine.
right.
Yes.
They have a,
You
they have
shouldn't
a
take
right
offense
to
to
their
it either.
preference.
right.
to
So that's
their-
what that's right. I think we're on the same page about that.
And again, that sweet Kathleen Williams interview,
Yeah.
to me, that it showed it perfectly. There was a white woman interviewing a black woman, and someone else was operating the camera, and the white woman would engage her like a white woman, very very polite, very sweet, but like a white woman. But the lady always looked at the camera person, not the camera person,
Okay.
when they gave their response.
Mm.
And to me, that just said, that's a black person.
Yeah. It was Jim Allen.
That
That's
is
what it
so
was.
true. That is
Well, you
so
got to
true.
understand, a lot of these people, depending on their age, this is what you say to a white person as opposed to as a black
Yes.
person.
Yeah.
What you say to a white person could be dangerous. And
Yes.
what are you doing? Why are you asking me that? Why do you want to know?
Mhm.
What's your purpose? You got,
Yeah.
That came out when we were at the Carver Center.
Right.
Remember, they were
Yeah.
talking about us collecting this information and then
What are we-
whitewashing it.
Yeah. What are we gonna do with that?
Well, we got, oh.
That came
Yeah.
out. That
And-
really,
and-
one of the ladies actually talked extensively about that.
And
Oh,
one of the
good.
people talked also about segregation, like, well, why are we just talking about like 1960s, like, because
True.
it's still going on today. And I said, we want to know that too. You know, so it's really being open to what people are saying, and we still have to learn too. I mean, this is ongoing training for us all about what are we going to do with the films ourselves. Yeah, and the thumb drives and stuff like that, but that's for another training. That's his wheelhouse, not mine. So, just to wrap things up, some of the things just even about, again, just repeating about trauma-informed, putting much information at the top, you know, with the questions we're going to ask, you know, and letting them know the questions we decide we're going to ask, and just asking them some upfront questions there too. And that you can pass on any question, we can stop at any time. We want to be sensitive and supportive, which I know already in this room I can feel it, you know, that we all are that. And I just want to say one thing about if people get frustrated or angry when they start talking about something, what's the last thing you want to say to someone? What's that you never want to say to someone when they're angry, or that you even want to hear when you're angry?
Calm down.
Calm down. You know, calm down. It's okay. You know, because it's like, you know, because what does that do to people?
Like mine.
Yeah, angry.
More.
Yeah,
So do we have a list of do's and don'ts? I'm just
I can put out a list,
I
but
think that would be good.
yeah,
do's and
yeah,
don'ts?
yeah, but
Because you know, there are do's and don'ts in interviewing for a job. We can't ask their age, can't ask their marriage, can't ask, so are there do's and don'ts with this? I'm just throwing that out there, just yet.
right. No, but I think these.
Deb, this
I
is
think you let
Deb's.
people be angry, and if you
well,
just can
it's one of the
tolerate them
things we're gonna talk
talking about their anger, that what this question did to me or this memory, because really, if you just listen to people, that's the best thing. Just even with the interviewing, the best thing is just to and I'm not saying if you don't feel safe to do that. You know, if you don't feel safe, which I don't think is going to happen, but just in case, that you can leave the bad scene if someone's feeling. But someone just needs a minute to get out some frustration or anger, and if you feel comfortable, if they're standing, you can stand. You know, and just letting someone be. And because I mean, I've been in those situations, and I don't think you have to be a trained person, because people have experience when you've been around someone that's been super angry and you just let them talk. Even a child, right, in school when they were angry, if they just got it out, you know, so it's just letting people get it out. And I'm not talking about an hour. If things start to go south a little bit, you may ask, like, who can I call to help here? Or even verbalize them. I know I was saying you're very upset. Is there anything I can do for you? You know, so that we can talk more about that too, but just don't say don't calm down. So,
Question:
please.
How should I put this?
Frankly.
if you got one person that you're interviewing, you got two people sitting on the other side of the table, they're outnumbered.
Or it's going to be like this and that.
Yeah, camera.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
I just
how
think-
open are you to them saying, I feel more comfortable if somebody else was in here with me?
Oh, we talked about that.
oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please come in. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only,
On down.
yeah, yeah, and the only thing we would ask that if that person can, we're interviewing you, right? I mean, I think we have discussed this, that not to let that person also run interference, though. Not that we would be shutting people down, but just, I think that would be, we'd welcome them in and, just to stay on the interview.
You lost me on that.
You
Say
mean
what?
like a
She
family
don't want
member?
them to
Family
say
member.
anything.
Right, right.
members,
If they're going to chime in
Friend,
on the
right,
interview,
right.
we don't want them
Or do we
chiming
let
in.
that? I don't wanna make
I think we should let them
Let
because
them
that might be
okay.
information that we want to
Oh,
get.
they'll trigger, okay.
Right.
I retract that.
But
You're
then,
talking about
do
the
you
video
film that
operator?
person?
No,
No.
the person that come in
Yeah, I
with them.
would.
Like if I you want to do an interview and I come with you, say, oh, I need somebody to sit with me, and I come with you,
Yeah.
and you was
Wide angle
interviewing
so
and
that
saying
you got
something,
them
and all of a
both
sudden
in
it
there.
came in my mind, oh, she didn't say this part, I was just blaring it out.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yes.
so that can probably get more information going.
Absolutely.
Does that-
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
That's true.
Yes.
What do you think, Rick?
I think your purpose is to try and get information.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're more comfortable providing that information, if they have somebody that they trust sitting next
Yeah.
to them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
then that's a good thing.
And they can chime in to
Okay.
help.
But also, you got to make sure that that person doesn't inhibit their.
Right. Right. Don't say that. Why are you saying that?
The other thing too is if we have another person on camera, we have to get them to sign the release.
Oh, that's
Oh, they'd have to sign all that before you come in.
Well, I mean, if they bring somebody else in,
Oh,
The new person.
sure, we can do that.
yeah.
We just
Yeah.
We
need
just need to be
your
prepared for
agreement.
that.
Right.
Yeah, they have a
That's a
form.
good
Yeah.
have
So
have
we
on
need
the
to have
ready.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Paper
Yes.
available.
Absolutely. Good point. Yes. Yes.
Already.
All right.
Leslie,
Pardon?
I said it was good discussion.
It
We don't
was,
forget.
it
Yeah, we
was.
had that
Yeah,
time to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, just a debrief a little.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have these wonderful questions that Jackie found on the internet.
Mhm.
And maybe not to decide today, but I'd like everyone to take a peek and maybe and we'll have another conversation another time about what do you think are the best questions. Yeah.
And I think that'd be excellent to share with people. I do have Deb's that she designed for the interview with Larry.
Based on, that was
Yes, based on that. My point is
largely.
that there's a lot of questions here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the flexibility of going in a direction and asking more questions, and this part probably isn't appropriate to ask. So there's a lot of flexibility
Yes, it has to be. Yeah.
depending on our relationship with the person
Mhm.
interviewing. That said, this came up in the last meeting too. We need to come up with a set 5-6 questions
Yeah.
that absolutely positively will be asked unless they decline to answer
Mhm.
of everybody, so
Right.
that we have a pool of
Consistent.
information
Oh,
that's
yeah.
Great
consistent.
idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's what
Or
we need to come up
The
with.
core questions.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is and this is why we rely on each other, because there's such a brain here collectively that if and we'll do like majority wins. What?
That's Mary. That's me.
But I think with all the expertise in here and life experience, everyone's experience here can help us, so that I think we will get the best questions, because it's not up to me.
I think the
Everybody.
best question is not a good way to describe what you want. You want the most appropriate question. What might be appropriate to ask one person might be something you want to stay completely clear of for somebody else. You got to learn to read the room. You got to learn to understand the
definitely.
person you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So what are you saying? We
what I'm
don't.
saying, she's saying, give me a list of your best questions. I'm just saying,
Well, most appropriate
Just-
questions. I can do
well,
that.
even most appropriate. Yeah, 'cause what's appropriate for one person is just.
Do you
Oh,
believe we
look
should
at
have core
something that says-
questions?
The only thing I would say is you might want somebody, if anybody has objection to any question.
Are there leftovers?
If anybody has an objection to
Oh,
any
that's
question,
right.
understand what that objection is.
Oh, good-
object-
good point.
When they say I don't want to answer that question,
What did you
Let's
say?
look at the
I
question.
missed, what was that?
We
You need to
should,
repeat what you said, dear.
just
I think you don't want to ask what the best question are. You might want to ask if anybody has any objections to any of these questions here.